everyone, it's Pam and I'm here with my monthly update video telling you everything that I was up to in the month of July. Starting with podcasts as usual, there were 2 new episodes of Media Mavens. The first one, we had a returning guest, Yusuf Cole, and we talked all about Detroit Become Human. We had a lot of thoughts about that game that we went over, and it was a really fun episode to record. And the other one, we had another returning guest, Dia Lucina, who just launched a new online journal called Capsule Crit, which is little mini bite-sized game criticism, around 500 words or so. So she just launched that. She's now had 2 issues since we recorded the podcast, but we talked about that and the sort of process of getting that kind of thing started online. So if either of those topics sound interesting to you, then definitely check them out. I also took part in a collaboration that came out in July. This was another one with Brazel. I had previously done a video with him about favorite NES games that I contributed to. So this time around, he did favorite Sega Genesis games. There's a whole bunch of collaborators on it, maybe a dozen or so. It's a fairly lengthy video. I talk about my favorite Sega Genesis game, and you can find that over on his channel, Tony Brazel, and I will link to it in the description below. So this month, again, I have a number of pickups. And I think you can see Max in the background there. Max? Oh, he's leaving. A number of pickups, so let's start with new stuff. A couple things I picked up for Xbox One. Jurassic World Evolution, which is something that I was really looking forward to coming out. I've had a chance to play a little bit of this as well, but again, gonna save my thoughts for when I've played more. I picked up a copy of Rayman Legends. If you've seen my top 100, you know that this is one of my favorite games. So I had this digitally on PlayStation, on Xbox, but I thought I wanted an actual physical copy, so I picked this one up. I also picked up one retro game, which is Lunar, Silver Star Story Complete. This is the first one. It's the sort of special edition box. It opens up. It's got the 4 discs, so 2 game discs, a making of, a soundtrack. It's got a quite lengthy manual, which is very nice. And it has a cloth map, which is pretty cool too. I really love when games include maps. So I've actually never played Lunar before, but I've heard that it's not super long, which are like the magic words for me when it comes to JRPGs. So I would like to try it at some point. And then I also got this Lunar Guidebook. My buds over at Retro Game Bros actually threw this in for free with me when I bought the game. And it's even got the previous owner's name in it, which I think is awesome. It was Samantha's. Samantha's strategy guide has a little heart. It's very cute. I like when you see little like notes and things inside of old games, or like you find receipts. I always find that really interesting. And then one more thing is not a game, but it is game related. I got the new Doom vinyl collector's edition, I think. It is a 2 vinyl set. So this is the first one, this is the second one, and the vinyls themselves are red, just like hell. So I'm super happy about this. I don't have a lot of vinyls. Will has been collecting them lately, but beside Led Zeppelin 4, this is my first one. I'm pretty happy. I really love the artwork and the quality of the vinyls themselves. I'm not super happy with this slipcover. I find it a little flimsy. Will says this is sort of normal for vinyls, but maybe it's just because I haven't really had any vinyls since the 90s, and they were all seemed to be a better build quality then with thicker plastic. But overall, it's pretty nice looking. Oh, and one other thing, I got a present for Will and my 5-year anniversary. He got me a new gaming chair, because I didn't have a gaming chair previously. If you've seen the DX Racer in the background, it's not there anymore, but it was. That's his. So I got a new Corsair gaming chair, which is super comfortable, and I really like sitting at my computer more now. So I didn't play a ton of games in July. I was playing the game that I'm going to be reviewing next, which should actually be coming out fairly soon. and I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but if you are a patron, you will already know. So I said I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm actually going to talk about Jurassic World Evolution a lot. I really liked Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, which was the like PS2, Xbox, PC one that came out a number of years ago. This is very similar, but it splits the park into 5 different islands. So you have to get a certain star rating on the first island, and then you open up the second one, and they get sort of harder as you go. You have to like deal with storms or like longer travel times for the guests. It's beautiful. The dinosaurs look really cool. Every time you hatch one, there's a little scene of them coming out of the hatchery and sort of roaring or looking around or something. It also has some voices from the game. So Jeff Goldblum is in it, and he is constantly talking to you, telling you to mind your hubris and stop trying to control life because you can't, which is fun. There's also the other characters, both from Jurassic Park and from Jurassic World. Now this is, it's not a surprise since it's called Jurassic World, but like all the looks and the sort of feel of the game is much more in that, about that movie than the originals, which is a little bit shitty for me because I love the original Jurassic Park and I thought Jurassic World was terrible. But the game is a decent sort of park simulator. Something is always going wrong. My raptors are always attacking the fences and eating all the guests. I'm surprised my parks haven't been shut down yet because I've had a lot of guests get eaten. But I've only opened 2 out of the 5 islands so far. But it's good. It's one where, I don't have a real want to like play it for 6 hours at a time, but I'll sit down and play for like maybe an hour or so, try to open up new things, new research. I've always loved the excavation part of it where you go and find new dino species. So, I'll be playing this sort of more throughout this month. I also finally finished The Fall Part 2 Unbound. The Fall is a indie sort of adventure game about artificial intelligence that came out a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I really loved the first game, so I was looking forward to the sequel coming out. And sadly, I didn't really like the sequel. I bought it as soon as it came out a number of months ago, and it just wasn't really clicking with me, so I turned it off for a long time. The first game had a lot to do with, you play basically a combat suit that is supposed to hold a pilot, and you are trying to get your pilot to safety because you can't see his health readings at the beginning of the game. So it's all about how this suit, whose name is Arid, sort of manipulates her programming. Like she has these directives that she has to follow, but she can get them to like contradict each other so she can break one of them. And it's all just about like breaking your programming and like playing with the rules. And it was really cool. But this one, they added a sort of overworld, a lot more travel time. They added 2 different types of combat. One, a sort of auto-target point and shoot, and one almost like a rhythm game. And they were not skippable, and even if you put them on sort of low difficulty, they were not that easy, and they just weren't that fun to do. So I found it really distracted from the good parts of the game, and I also didn't really like the story as much in this one, or the voice acting, which is disappointing because I love the first one so much. But yeah, I finally finished The Fall Unbound, and I think they're still going to make a 3rd game, although I'm not certain at this point if I'm going to play it because like from game 1 to game 2, it just like changed my opinion of it completely. And then the last thing, Detroit. If you want to hear my full thoughts on this, again, there's an episode of Media Mavens. It's called In This House We Play David Cage Games. I forget what episode it is, maybe 60. So check that out if you want my full thoughts. But my sort of quick thoughts, if you don't know, Detroit is a game about androids, and androids are sort of gaining self-awareness and wanting freedom. There's 3 different characters that you play. One is a cop. He's basically like a Blade Runner who hunts down the deviant androids. One is a caretaker who runs away with the little girl that she's supposed to be protecting when it's found out that her father is abusive, so they're trying to get to somewhere safe. And the third one is Marcus, who ends up sort of leading the android revolution. My basic thoughts on this are that 1/3 of the game is good, and 2/3 of the game are garbage. David Cage is a hack when it comes to writing. Like, he's really not very good at all. I have played a lot of his other games. Heavy Rain is a game I actually really like, not because of the writing, more because of the quick time events and, like, the actual gameplay of it. There's some really effective scenes, but a lot of plot holes and poorly written characters. And so this one just takes basically the civil rights movement and just, like, places it onto androids. So, like, not liking androids is the new racism. So they just take, like, Martin Luther King and Black Lives Matter and the Underground Railroad, and they just, like, put it on the android struggle, which is really kind of sloppy and ham-fisted. Marcus's story was really just, like, almost unplayable. It was just so poorly done. Kara and, I don't remember the kid's name, Alice, their story was just kind of boring and also involved things like the Underground Railroad for androids. And then the one good story was Connor and Hank, two detectives, a human and an android. The human doesn't seem to like the android's trying to please the human, and that was really fun because David Cage can do the sort of pulpy cop drama procedural, like, little detective segments where you find clues and put scenarios together. Those worked pretty well for me. And depending on how you played the game, you could get this, like, really cute relationship between the two, and Connor was just adorable. But, yeah, if somehow the game could have just been Connor and Hank, I would have loved it. But by putting this whole, like, android revolution in it, it was just so ham-fisted and, like, overwrought and just boring in a lot of cases. So yeah, Detroit, 1/3 good, 2/3 bad. Alright, so that's it for this update. I hope it's a little shorter than they have been lately. Let me know in the comments if you've played anything interesting in the last month, or if you've gotten any cool pickups. Whatever else you want to tell me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.